My name is Jeremy Smith. Most people didn't expect me to be around this long, including my doctors. I'm blessed to be alive to see my kids grow up. You know, my oldest is 41 now, my son, and I've got 7 grandkids. I didn't have to be a victim to the disease. I wasn't going to die right away. I was driving home from work and I had what I thought was a panic attack. And I called 911 and pulled over the side of the road, and an ambulance came, took me to the hospital. And they ran blood tests, and the emergency room doctor said, I don't want you to leave. I want you to stay overnight for testing. But your primary care physician said to send you home and call him in the morning. My primary care physician at the time was very old school, but he brought in a hematologist, and the thing that bugged me the most was nobody would tell me what was going on. People were commenting that, oh, you've been in the sun a lot, your face is red, you must be healthy. And that was a surprising thing, was when I found out I had Polycythemia Vera after having a very painful bone marrow biopsy.
I think if there's something that's very distinguishing about PV, I'd say that's probably the one symptom that they said, gee, I had this itching for years. I went to dermatologists. I tried different soaps. I tried this, that, and nothing really worked. It's more whole body. Like they'll say, I just feel like I'm itching from inside. My whole body is itching from inside, as opposed to, oh, my foot itches.
I'll be honest with you. It's been a long journey, and the last, I would say 5 to 6 years have been the hardest, as my body's begun to break down. It's taxing at times. It's like I retired from work at the end of last year, and I was 65 last year, and I said, that's it, I'm done at the end of the year. And just because the disease is so complicated and manifests itself in so many ways that you need to be prepared. I would say in early 2000, I was riding on my bicycle anywhere from 30 to 75-mile bike rides. Now, because my spleen makes all my red blood cells, I can only ride a stationary bike because exercise is a big part of my life. Because my doctors are worried my spleen will get damaged. And so if my spleen gets damaged, then I can't make red blood cells. So they've kind of banned me right now, or restricted me from mountain biking and road biking. And so those are things that have changed, that take some of the joy out of your everyday life. Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays are weight workout days. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays are cardiovascular workout days. So when I get done, I will have lunch and then take a break for a little bit, and then I will go down and then start lifting some weights. If you have polycythemia vera and you work out and you exercise and you change your diet, that you'll live a long life, or that you'll improve anything. But there was just no data. There were no studies being done. Dr. Ruben Mesa was the first one to really look at exercise and fatigue, and how exercise can positively impact fatigue. I learned very quickly that exercise can I wouldn't say eliminate fatigue, but it can reduce it to the point where it's more chronic than debilitating. My original doctor at Stanford passed away, Dr. Stanley Schreier, but he was really good at setting goals for me. And so he wanted me to have something to strive for continually on a positive note. And so to be focused on that. So the first one was to see my 3 kids graduate high school. He says, we're not in the business of forecasting lifespan. We're going to do the best that we can to save you and give you as long a life as possible. And depending upon how you react to the medications and things like that,
you know, an 18-year-old is going to have different goals for their health than an 80-year-old. So I would say, you know, what you sometimes actually do basically just say this: what would you like to accomplish with your treatment? What are you hoping to accomplish? Because in PV, there's so many different ways that one can manage it. And realistically, there's not a right way and there's a wrong way. And that's another reason why I really like the disease, is because there's no set rules of right or wrong. It really is a personalized approach. So want to know what the person wants to accomplish, and then I can provide them with the information about what's available to them and what they could expect, say, one treatment to do, and one treatment not to do, and just give them all the information. And then it's their prerogative to select what they think is the best approach for them.
it's normal to feel mentally blown away and exhausted and fearful. And I said, you know, what you're going to find is, which is what happened with me, is you can only burn through so much family and friends. And family and friends always tell you, oh, you're going to be fine. You look great. You're going to be fine. And that's just not helpful, but they don't know what else to say. What are you going to say? It's too much for them, and they're not professionals. And you need to develop the tools from meditation to learn how to deal with the stress of the diagnosis, and how to be able to deal with the ups and downs of having an MPN. And that was a big change for that. That began the transformation of me getting control of my life. I'm not going to become a doctor, but I'm going to be as educated as possible. That was the whole beginning of self-realization, and that I didn't have to be a victim to the disease. I wasn't going to die right away, but you know, I could start building a life for myself. That life that you once had before the MPN won't be normal, but you also have to focus on that the realization that your life may not be exactly as long as you want it, but it can still be very long. Should be a wake-up call for you to really embrace your life and not be static in accepting the normal stuff that you might otherwise do. And you know, it's important to take this challenge, if you will, and do the best that you can in looking at your entire life, not just the MPN, not just what drugs you take, not which doctors you just see, but to look at your entire life, your marriage, your, you know, how can you build those relationships? How can you be closer to your family? All of the things that are really the most important to our life. I didn't want to be stuck on the couch, as a lot of patients that I knew were, living a life straddled to my home. I guess one thing I didn't mention is, you know, there's a lot of talk about the loss of having a normal life, and there's no going backwards. I have a combination of 4 hematologists and oncologists. And so they all bring different perspectives. And that was something I learned early on, is that you could talk to one hematologist, and he or she would tell you, this is the approach I would take. You go to another one and they'll give you a different approach, which in the beginning can be very confusing for an MPN patient. But since as much as we progress, we still don't know what causes really truly causes the various MPNs. I took my business plan for my company and I turned it into a medical plan for how to treat myelofibrosis. And so I began to add other doctors. You have to look at the big picture. Combo drugs, no matter whether you have an MPN, a cancer, a heart issue, combo drugs seem to be, or as they are often referred to as cocktails. You don't know what's going to work, and why would you want to deprive yourself of an opportunity to give yourself the best, first of all, the highest quality of life. You always have to think of quality of life.
So I think that in polycythemia vera, as in the conversation, if it's moving in the direction of the person is interested in, data and research focusing on, I will just call it the word disease modification. So changing their disease trajectory and potentially reducing or potentially even getting rid of their JAK2 mutant cells. The conversation really does turn to interferon alpha. And many times people actually come with that. They basically come with the purpose of discussing interferon alpha with me because they've already done their own research and are coming with that as a request and want to talk more about it. But I would say in terms of disease modification, really the conversation revolves around interferon alpha. It's a chronic condition that the patient really can and should be taking the driver's seat in terms of how they want to manage their care.
Never give up. That's just the thing, is that you're going to have major highs and you're going to have major lows, but the more positive attitude that you take, and I know it's not easy. It's easy to say, but I've been where you are when you're at your lows. You just have to keep on trucking, enjoy every little moment. Like people talk about how they sip wines. You have to sip life and embrace it and never give up.